everyone, and welcome to another episode of Monster Talks. My name is Raul Mendoza, and today I got a very special guest. Today's guest is a Mexican-American engineer. He's a former NASA astronaut. He is the subject of the 2023 biopic movie, A Million Miles Away. He's an author. He's a motivational speaker. Mr. Jose Hernandez, how's it going, sir?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much. Don't forget, I'm also a farmer and a winemaker.
A farmer.
And a winemaker.
And winemaker.
Yes, sir.
Welcome, sir. Thank you for taking the time today to come to the podcast. I know you're very busy and you got some speaking engagements, so thank you for taking the time.
Yes, thank you, Raul. Absolutely. Yeah, we're here to speak at the Science Festival at the Convention Center, so we're pretty excited about that.
That's awesome. Is that one of your core reasons of why you do what you do? Is just inspiring the next generation, being able to touch the next generation through your work?
Exactly. That's why I always tell people I like to go out and speak the good gospel of STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. And so I want to make kids aware of the opportunities in these fields and to tell them, hey, look, I was just like you, and if I was able to do it, why can't you?
Absolutely. I think that's the message. That's one of the core reasons, as I was explaining to you, why we have this podcast, is to try to inspire, to try to spark that initial spark. Just like I know looking at your interviews, one of the things that influenced you was watching the Apollo 17, right?
1972, December, exactly. Watching Gene Cernan walk on the surface of the moon. And I remember going outside that cold December evening, seeing the moon almost full, coming back inside, and then listening to the reporter, still remember his name, Walter Cronkite, narrating that moonwalk. And when I saw that man on the moon in our black and white vacuum tube technology TV with rabbit ear antennas, I said, this is what I want to be. I want to be like that guy.
You know, I smiled when I heard you talk about the rabbit ears.
Yeah.
And a lot of people forget that you would have to, like hold the rabbit ears to a certain way. Sometimes you look at the TV while you were holding it.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. There's a couple of things that happen interesting with vacuum tube technology TVs and not having cable.
Yeah.
You have the rabbit ear antennas, but more importantly, at least in my house, you didn't want to sit next to my dad because he would give you what's called el codazo, the elbow, and that was go change the channel.
Yeah.
and I remember, and our TV was black and white.
Did you have the switch that you
yeah,
changed the channel?
Yeah, exactly. And I remember once, he must have done it like 6 or 7 times to me that day, and my shoulder was hurting. Tanto codazo, right? So many elbows. And I was frustrated. You got to understand my frustration. We have rabbit ear antennas. What does that mean? We only get 3 channels, right?
Yeah.
ABC, CBS, NBC.
Yes.
Okay, well, you get PBS, but no one watches that one, right? So you had 3 channels. And so he was going around in circles, and I was frustrated. I told my dad, hey, Dad, I said, why don't you get us a new TV that's color and with a remote control? Man, he just turned around and looked at me and said, "Now, why would I want a remote control when I have you?" And then he says, "You want color?" He said, "Use your imagination."
Wow.
So he was very pragmatic. And then when something important came on, like you said, he would send me to go adjust the antenna. And you know this probably.
Yeah.
When you grab the antenna, you're well grounded, so the image improves.
Yes.
You let go. It got fuzzy.
Yeah.
You grab it again, it got clear. And my dad would see that. Third time I did that, he said, stay there. So there I am watching it from a contortionist perspective, upside down. Gene Cernan walking on the moon while the whole family was fat, dumb, and happy in the sofa watching it.
Wow.
I always tell people that's why I became an astronaut. It was through osmosis.
Yeah.
The signal of the antenna went through my body and somehow programmed me to become an astronaut.
Wow, that's amazing that sometimes we have those moments where everybody else can't see it, but to somebody it's magic, and there's magic happening there.
Exactly.
What do you think causes that? Because to me, I had a very similar experience being in Bristol, Tennessee. We were at a marketing boot camp, and they were talking about search engine optimization, about the future of the internet. And I had one of those moments because everybody was asleep. Literally, some people were asleep and they were passing out chocolates. But to me, my mind was blown of what was going to happen to the internet and what was going to be, and I came back home and I was on this high for like 2 weeks, where I was just blown away by what was going to happen in the future. Were you already dreaming, and what was going through your mind as you were those thoughts, or what do you think it takes for people to get that spark?
Well, I think it takes a spark, and you also need a catalyst, a fuel, to create that initial burst to get you going. And I think in my case, the spark was created by watching Gene Cernan. I think the catalyst was provided by my father upon sharing the fact that I wanted to be an astronaut that same evening. Him doing two important things. The first thing he did was he empowered me into believing I could do it. He validated that dream. He said, and this is a man who only has a third grade education, but had the wisdom to say, I think you can do it. And then not only that, but then give me a simple yet very powerful 5-ingredient recipe. He said, if you want to do this, mijo, follow this 5-ingredient recipe. He said, define your purpose in life. Recognize how far you are from that goal. Draw yourself a roadmap so you know how to get there. Prepare yourself according to the challenge, and develop a work ethic second to none. So you mix that up, son, that's the recipe to success.
Yeah, those are some of the laws of success in Napoleon Hill's book. But this is a man with, you said, a third grade education giving you this information.
Yes.
Why do you think preparation is so key for anybody trying to achieve their goals?
Well, I think it gives you the maximum chance of succeeding. Some people may get lucky and not prepare as much, and and still succeed. But for the most part, you tell any champion athlete, you tell any boxer, you tell any scientist, what was the secret to success? They say preparation.
Yeah.
You do the work beforehand, before that championship flight, before that basketball game.
Absolutely.
You look at Michael Jordan. He would practice. He was very famous for practicing tirelessly, and so that's what makes you better, and that's what makes you succeed. So
absolutely, a tree. We see the top of the tree, but we don't see the tree growing from the roots, right?
Exactly.
Both has to go up and down. Right?
Yes.
And I think that's the way life is, right? You have to have those struggles, and you have to have not only the wins. People only see what's the wins and you going to space, but they don't see you running and all the preparation that went into, and all the tireless nights that went into.
37 years in the making, when that first dream was conceived to actually achieving it. 37-year journey.
Was this something that stayed in your mind?
Yeah, it stayed in my mind.
Continuously. It was something that you couldn't get it out of your mind.
I couldn't get out of. I always thought about it and said, I'm going to do it. And I always tell people that, it wasn't that I was obsessed with it. It was, I just felt strongly, I felt a calling to it, that I was going to do it. And, I got rejected many times, and people say, well, didn't you get frustrated with well, no one likes rejection. Of course I got frustrated, but I would look and reflect upon life, and I would say, what's the worst thing that could happen if I never got selected? Well, the mere fact that I wanted to be an astronaut motivated me to finish high school, go to college, go to graduate school.
Wow.
It motivated me to work in a world-renowned research laboratory, Lawrence Livermore Lab.
Wow.
Motivated me to become a pilot, scuba dive certified, learn a third language, Russian. And I had a kick-ass job at the lab. I was being very successful with what I was doing. Yeah. So I would say, if it never happens, the consolation prize is not too shabby, given the fact from where I came as a migrant farm worker.
Yeah.
I said, I'm doing pretty good. So I was happy with myself. I was happy with life. Sure, I still wanted to be an astronaut, but like I said, it wasn't an obsession. It was just one of these goals I'm going to go after. And we should always have goals in front of ourselves.
Wow. Yeah, one of the things I found very interesting was during one of your ABC interviews, the host asked you if anybody doubted you along the way. And one of the first things you said is that you felt imposter syndrome, like you doubted yourself.
Sure.
It's something that I struggle with because sometimes I feel like I don't belong here, or I wake up and I think I'm going to be that broke kid, there with my mom, seeing her cry as we're losing our house. What is it that kept you pushing through that? Because I think when I look back to my successes, Jose, it was going through those steps, but still saying I'm still going to go forward, even though I'm scared.
Right.
I'm still going to go forward. So how did you get through those times that you were the main one doubting yourself?
Well, first of all, imposter syndrome is something that happens to just about everybody, especially if you're a minority or a woman. When you get into your profession, and sometimes you're the only one that looks like you.
Yeah.
And you doubt yourself.
Yeah.
And so the tendency is to clam up and be quiet when there's a meeting and they're talking about an issue and you've got an idea for a solution and you don't talk about it because you say, no, I may be wrong, I'm not going to do it. And there's more discussion. 30 minutes later, someone comes up with your idea. And everybody says, wow, what a great idea. You should. And then you look at yourself and say, man, I should have said that 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And so that's what I tell people. I said, speak up. Do not have this imposter syndrome. I always found myself that I took what I call it a safety timeout on myself. And what's that? That means when I find myself having this imposter syndrome and feeling like this, because it's natural to feel like that, and you're going to feel that way. I take a safety timeout and I say, wait, no one went to undergraduate school for me. No one took those finals. No one took those finals for graduate school. No one did the work I did at developing an X-ray laser to be deployed in space, or developing the first full-field digital mammography system. I did that. I said, do I belong here? I said, hell yeah, I belong here. So you build yourself back up, and then you get assertive, and then you start spewing out all those ideas and speaking up. And that's what I do.
Wow. That's great advice. In your opinion, what are the biggest challenges facing like a Hispanic or a Mexican American trying to go after their dreams today?
Well, I think, the cost of education is certainly something. I mean, there's even talk about sometimes that, college education is not worth it. But I always say, I like the cheap skin. I like the graduate certificate that says I'm an college educated individual. And I think there's something to say for that in life. And so I always tell people, just prepare yourself, and go to college and get that degree. And then that sort of gives you the tools you're going to be needing so that you can apply it in your work.
Yes.
I'll tell you, I was very, when I was majoring in engineering, my first year, I didn't know what an engineer did.
Yeah.
Then I went to my second year, third year. I was graduating as an ingeniero, engineer.
Wow.
And I still didn't know what an engineer did.
Yeah.
So I graduated and I said, what? I'm an engineer. What does an engineer do?
Yeah.
And, and then I went to work and I realized college, when you walk into college, you walk in with an empty toolbox.
Yes.
Okay. During the course of those 4 years of your degree, you're getting tools, you're developing, and you're putting it in the toolbox.
Yes.
You graduate and you go off to work. Now you got a toolbox with tools, not empty.
Yeah.
And sometimes at the very beginning, you don't know which tool to use. I mean, when you need a crescent wrench and you end up using a pliers, you struggle more, but you get the job done.
Yes.
And as you get more experience, you start optimizing the use of those tools. And that's what I found college did to me.
Yeah.
And as an engineer, I said, they don't teach you how to be an engineer. They give you the tools
Yes.
to be an engineer. And that's
I always
what
say
did.
school teaches you how to learn.
Exactly.
You're learning how to learn.
Exactly.
So that was a big tool or a big key for me. Going to school was learning how to learn.
Exactly.
And then after that, the sky's the limit. I teach myself everything. I taught myself how to code.
Yeah.
I taught myself how to do everything through YouTube University,
Yeah,
right? Once
yeah.
you have it, you have all the tools, and you can.
That's
and I'm a
right.
vigorous learner to the point that I just feel like I'm never going to stop learning. I'm a student forever.
Yeah, thank God for Khan Academy, right?
Yes, it gives us the ability to learn for free now, because you and I didn't have those tools
we
growing
didn't have
up.
those,
You had to go find a mentor, or you had to.
But the funny part is, I didn't have those tools, but they're here today.
Yeah.
Funny part is when my kids are having trouble with ordinary differential equations, man, I just jump on Khan Academy and get the gist of it, and then teach them, and they're amazed at how smart I am.
ChatGPT today is spitting out code, and it's doing all sorts of stuff like that. So it's amazing. It's interesting to see, what we're going to be able to accomplish with all this new information that's out there, because it's readily available.
Right.
It's really no excuse today why you can't become successful in what you want to do in your life. So you were denied 11 times before you got accepted. In watching your movie, you're collecting the letters. Did you really collect those letters?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
You did?
Yes. Absolutely. As a reminder.
Yes. But you never gave up.
Never give up. Yeah.
You just knew it in your heart that one day it was going to happen.
I was hopeful it would happen, and I was doing everything I could in my rim of possibilities to get selected. So if I was gonna go down, I was gonna go down with a fight.
That's amazing, because most people give up after like one or two times.
Yeah, human tendency is to give up after 2, maybe 3 times at the most. And I always tell people, we are our own worst enemies when it comes to walking away from a goal or an objective, because no one likes rejection. So or failure. So once we fail at it 3 times, you say, well, challenge, this isn't for me, And I tell people, don't do that. I said, because eventually, if you want it bad enough, you'll get there.
It'll make it happen.
Yeah.
You give those instructions to your brain, and your brain will make it happen.
Will make it happen, exactly.
That's amazing. I noticed that one of the things in the denial was partly because you're an engineer. What's like the most important skill to have if you want to be an astronaut?
I think
is it a pilot? Or?
Well, there's two paths to becoming an astronaut. You could go through the military, become a pilot, go to test pilot school, have over 2,000 to 3,000 hours of jet fighter experience, and you can go that route. And those are the ones that become the pilots. And then mission specialists are typically picked up on the civilian side. And for the civilian side, they still look at you to have the aptitude to fly. So they like to see people that have a pilot's license, even if it's a small Cessna single engine, as long as it's VFR, visual flight rules, and instrument flight rules, IFR rated. So you got to get those 2 ratings. And then they want to see you have some scuba dive experience. So because you do underwater, lunar, or Martian analog missions, you also do EVAs, spacewalks in the pool.
Yeah.
So they want you to have that diving experience. They don't say that because they want to pick people that naturally migrate to those activities. So they want to get the naturals. Because if they publicize that, then everyone's going to do it, and they can't decipher, well, who's doing it for being an astronaut, who does it because they love it. And so they want to pick the people that does it because they love it. So you got to do those things, and then you got to go to college in the STEM field, which is engineering, physics. You can even be a medical doctor. There's space flight medicine specialties that they can do.
Wow.
But these days you almost have to have a PhD. Because when I was applying, there was about a little over 12,000 people applied for 10 to 15 positions.
Wow.
Now it's over 18,000, and I
Wow.
suspect this next selection round is gonna probably top over 20,000.
It gets more and more competitive as
So it
time
gets
goes.
more competitive. So
Yeah.
a PhD is it's a paramount if you're going in through the civilian side, but also being a pilot and scuba dive rated and
Mm.
learning a language of one of our space partners.
Wow.
You know, I learned Russian, but
Wow.
you could learn Japanese, you can learn German, you can learn French. One of those languages that will help you with our international partners.
Out of all the things that you did during that training, what was the most challenging thing that you went through for you specifically?
Wow.
Was it the underwater work, or what part of it?
I think it was like the water survival training work.
It was intense.
It was intense because I did not grow up as a swimmer, so I'm not a strong swimmer. And so it was a big challenge for me. That's one thing I did with my kids, man. When they were small, they were in a swim club, and
Wow.
you know, I spent lots of Saturdays in races for my kids. But I did it because it's such a life-saving skill to
Yeah.
have. And I said, I don't want these kids to be embarrassed that they don't know how to swim like their dad didn't know how to swim.
Were you
So
working on breath work before leading up to your training?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
holding your breath and stuff
I
like
was
that.
doing that, and then you know, lots of training, lots of running, cardiovascular, and
Wow.
then, like you said, you know, you get into the helo dunker, and you got to hold your breath for long periods of time. And
Do you remember what the time period was that you were?
I
you
don't
had
know. I don't know how it seemed like an eternity, but you gotta, you know,
Yeah.
you just imagine the carcass of a helicopter, and you're strapped in, coming down, and the water coming up to your chest, and then it goes all the way down. It's about 15 feet down, and then it turns upside down,
Wow.
and then not until it hits the bottom can you unbuckle your seatbelt, and you got divers there looking so you don't cheat, and then that's when you get out, try to get out and swim to the surface. They did this to us 3 times. The first time is they say get out from the there's about 3 exits. They say get out from the closest exit however you want to get out, you get out. And so we did it.
Wow.
Second time they said, okay, you're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna assign your exits, and they assigned them so that we crisscross each other. So you have to work as a team. And then when you thought you were done, they said, we're going to do it third, final time. This is the last time, we promise. This time you can get out from any exit that you want. And I said, okay, well, we did that before. They said, but you got to wear these. And they were sprayed black goggles.
Wow.
So you had to feel your way. So you got the goggles on when the water is coming up, and you feel the water coming, and you got to hold your breath, and
Wow.
then you got to wait until it gets to the bottom, and then undo your seatbelt, and then you feel your way out, which is
that's amazing.
intense. That was
Yeah, it's intense.
And for someone who's not a strong swimmer and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
any Mexicano or
Yeah.
Latino growing up on the border, growing
Yeah,
up
yeah.
in the fields, this is completely foreign.
Exactly.
And that's
Very
amazing.
challenging, very challenging.
Very challenging. But it just shows that if you have your mindset on what you want to do, you'll go through
Oh yeah.
whatever you need to do to make it happen, right? What was the preparation like as you get ready for this launch? I think that was the most interesting thing, and the detail that you and your daughter Vanessa went into
Yeah.
on that interview.
Yeah. You know, when you first get selected, that's the tough part.
Yes.
The tough part is when you first get selected. The first 2 years, you're an astronaut candidate. You're not even an astronaut. You're a candidate. And
Wow.
derogatory term, ASCAN. You're an ASCAN.
Yeah.
And you got to train for 2 years. And there's about 17 binders that you have to study, classroom study.
Huh.
And then you have every Friday for these 2 years, you have a written test, an oral test, and a simulator test. Every Friday, it's like being in finals for 2 years in a row.
Wow.
And then, aside from that, you know, they're teaching you how to fly the T-38 jet. They're teaching you how to fly and operate the space shuttle. They're teaching you how to operate the International Space Station. And that's what the simulators are for. Whatever they're teaching you, they're testing you on.
Yes.
And so it's pretty tough the first 2 years, very intense. And then you earn your wings. Now you're an astronaut, but you're an unflown astronaut, unassigned astronaut. You do a technical job and you wait your turn, when you get assigned to a mission, now you're training for 18 months, in our case for a 14-day mission. 7 of us always training together for this 14-day
For that one mission.
For that one mission. We're practicing what we're going to be doing, the goals and objectives of that mission. That's what we practice for those.
It's all mapped out.
It's
all
all
14
mapped
days
out.
are mapped out.
Every minute is mapped out that you're up in space. It's mapped out for everybody, all 7 of us. But that training actually,
Yeah.
that training compared to the first 2 years is easy, because now it's kind of like there's 2 types of training. The first type of training is, they want to break you and then build you back up, and kind of like the military does. And you get your confidence and everything. At the end of 2 years, you're a new person. You can conquer the world. When you get assigned to a mission for this 18 months, it's a different type of training. It's success-oriented training. Now they're not trying to break you. Now they're not trying to, break things for you and all that. They want you to be successful. So it's very, very respectful training, that you have a good camaraderie with Mission Control Houston, the people that you're going to be talking to when you're up there, and yourself, your crewmates, and everything. So I found that training very, very enjoyable.
Wow, and how important is that teamwork to accomplish a mission like that?
Very, very important. This is why we take team building exercise. We go through cold weather survival training, water survival training, wilderness survival training together. So we stress our bodies out. We stress our leadership skills out. We learn each other's strengths and weaknesses, so that we know how to work together once we're up there together.
Wow. What's it like, and were you scared on the build-up as you're getting ready, you're walking into the shuttle?
We practice a lot going into the shuttle and all these dress rehearsals that we have. But I'll tell you, when it became real, they have everything fueled up. Before, nothing was fueled up, so it was kind of nice and quiet. When it's fueled up, you got cryogenic fuel, sub-freezing fuel that's expanding and contracting metals, and you got smoke coming out. And it's kind of like you get up into the elevator of the launch pad, go up the 192-foot level, and you walk and you see it, and smoke and making noise. It's like you're going into the belly of a beast. And I said, whoa, this wasn't part of practice, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you get strapped in, and then, the countdown begins. You reach 0, the 3 engines light up. You feel a gentle vibration. You hear the noise of the 3 engines. A couple seconds later, the 2 solid rocket boosters light up. When those light up, you're going somewhere, because you can't turn them off. And all of a sudden, the vibration goes more of a violent vibration. Noise level goes up an order of magnitude. And the thing they don't teach you is that right before liftoff, the shuttle, leans about 3 or 4 degrees. And so you feel you're going to fall over to the floor. And that's when you say, when did I get scared? That's the moment I got scared, because I felt it do this. But before I can even react, you feel your back pressure on your back, and that's liftoff.
Wow.
And now you're lifting off and onto your journey.
Is it pretty gradual, the acceleration?
Yeah. Yeah, it's very quick. You go from 0 to 17,500 miles an hour in 8.5 minutes.
Wow.
So you build up G's throughout those 8.5 minutes, ultimately building up to 3.5. I stand corrected. It's 3 G's. You build up to 3 G's. And how does that feel like? It feels like gradually 3 of your buddies that weigh like you are stepping on your chest little by little, until they put their full weight on you, all 3 of them.
Wow.
So it's quite a ride.
It's
a ride that Disneyland's even envious of.
That's mind-blowing. Was any of the training similar? I mean, did it prepare you to feel that 3Gs? It was, so you had something that you had felt something.
Yeah, we had a centrifuge, and I'm a flight engineer, so I have to pull some switches and stuff. So one of the things I had to demonstrate is, under the 3G forces, I can lift my hand, because it's very heavy. Yeah. Lift my hand and pull switches, and so they put you in a centrifuge, and they'll tell you, okay, flip, row 13, column D, switch to on, and so you go to and you do your things that you have to do.
That was one of the questions I had. As you're lifting off, you were saying you didn't get the chance to enjoy
That's right.
the liftoff because it happened so fast, and you're so focused on your job.
Yeah, I had the best seat in the house. I was sitting right in between, a little aft of the pilots, and which meant I had the panoramic view. But such is the life of the flight engineer, is that your job is to hawk the instruments during
Yeah.
flight, making sure nothing gets out of tolerance, or you prepare for any anomaly, because you as a flight engineer have to learn all the systems. The pilots only have to learn half the systems, because they divide the cockpit into
Yeah.
half, and so they only have to learn their halves. And when the protocol is, if something goes out of tolerance, we have a problem, I peel off with whoever owns the system of the two pilots.
Yes.
And I'm the one that helps work the issues with it.
And that's what I was going to ask. Your role as a flight engineer is basically the tech of the ship.
Yeah,
You're in charge. You understand
Yeah.
all the technology.
exactly. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's a major role. That's a
Yeah.
lot of responsibility.
Yeah. I think that's among mission specialists, that's the most coveted role.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing, Jose. That's mind blowing. Just the way that you're explaining it. One of the things that you talked about that was mind blowing as well for me was the 90-minute. Every sundown, sun up, sundown, every 90
you
minutes.
circumnavigate the Earth every 90 minutes.
Are you feeling that movement?
No, because you're not accelerating anymore. It's a constant speed. So imagine yourself, I'm sure you've been on an airplane.
Mm-hmm.
It's like being on an airplane, just like that. After you take off and you're up at 37,000 feet, except we're up 250 miles, and you're floating all the time. So that's
Wow.
the only difference. But yeah, you don't feel it in that sense.
What's the first thing that came to your mind as you look back at Earth from space?
We had done one revolution, so we're back over North America.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw Canada, the U.S., and Mexico. And, what really surprised me or struck at me is, and I knew this beforehand, but the visualization is what really makes it so awesome, is that I couldn't see any borders. I couldn't tell the difference. I couldn't tell Canada, U.S., and Mexico, but I couldn't tell where one country ended and the other began. And I said, my gosh, I had to go out of this world to realize that down there, we're just one.
We're one.
We're
Yeah.
just one race, the human race. And that borders are human-made concepts designed to separate us. And how sad, because from my perspective, we're just one down there.
Was it what you dreamt, or was it more than what you dreamt? It would be.
It was more. It was more.
Wow.
It was more. The experience was more. I mean, just, you think you're one of less than 600 people out of 7 billion that has the privilege to exit our planet and see the beauty of our Earth in one window, go the opposite side and see the beauty of our universe in the other. And I said, I've just felt so blessed. I said, wow, how privileged am I? How lucky am I to have had this opportunity?
And you mentioned the sunrise and sunsets, that you would see the rays and you see how thin our.
Yeah. I mean, we had 217 sunrises and sunsets, and on one of those, I had a few minutes to kill.
Mhm.
So I said, I'm going to enjoy a sunrise. So we're coming from the dark side of Earth, and the sun's going to be rising up the sunrise on the Earth's horizons. You wait for it at the right moment. The sun hits our Earth, where you're able to see the thickness of our atmosphere. And let me tell you, Raul, it is scary thin. I became an instant environmentalist when I saw that, because it looks so delicately balanced. that I said, I think the environmentalists down there have it right that we should be good stewards of our environment, because anything we do that may upset this delicate balance may end up that our atmosphere escapes space in an uncontrolled fashion. I mean, that's what they theorized happened in Mars. Mars has only 1% the density of our atmosphere.
Wow.
And they suspect that some type of greenhouse effect occurred that created this unbalance, and their atmosphere escaped into space. And the same thing could happen here.
Yeah.
And so that's why I said, why take the chance and find out? I mean, a lot of people say, oh, it's not going to happen. I said, well, why take the chance? Just be good stewards of our
And the
environment.
fact that we're floating in space,
Yeah.
the fact that we're tilted at a certain degrees is all a miracle.
Yeah.
What are the sunrises more intense than you would experience it here on Earth?
Yeah, because I've sat in sunrises on beaches and mountains. This much more intense in space. Yeah, because you see the whole Earth coming into sunrise.
Are you guys feeling temperature inside of the shuttle, or is that all controlled?
Well, it's all controlled. Yeah, the commander, that's the rule. He controls he or she controls the temperature, and whatever temperature he or she sets it, that's what it is. It's usually about 70, 71 degrees kind of thing.
Wow. During your interview, and I asked you this earlier, you mentioned us going back to the moon.
Yeah.
Was there some kind of information you knew at that point, like we're getting ready to go to the moon? Or was it just your passion of what you knew that one day we would go back?
Well, when I was a kid and the Apollo program got canceled, they said they were going to be building a new spacecraft, but it was designed for low Earth operations, low Earth ops, which means the next 40 or so years, our focus was studying our Earth. This is how we learned about, the greenhouse effect, and we learned a lot about our Earth. But now, the International Space Station is getting old. We're probably going to decommission that, and we're going to move the resources to build a long duration lunar base and a new generation space vehicle, which is called the Artemis program.
Yes.
And so that's what we're doing now. And this is great because when I had just finished, 14 years ago that I went into space. When I had just finished, I went into NASA headquarters and worked 1 year there in developing space policy. And it's nice. This is the type of space policy that I worked in 14 years ago.
Wow.
That this is in its planning. NASA didn't just wake up and say, hey, we're going back to the moon. I mean, we've been talking about this 14 years, and I knew about the Artemis program. And now that I see it coming, I said, oh, yeah, I remember we talked to Congress about that to get funding for that, and now it's happening.
Yes. Yeah, no, there's a lot of developments that are really exciting, especially with AI and robotics today. What do you think of Elon Musk's Falcon 9 and the ability to have a reusable rocket?
I think it's awesome. I think he pushes the boundaries of technology. Look, it's not only Elon Musk, right? It's Jeff Bezos too, right? It's Sir Richard Branson from Virgin Galactic.
Yes.
To me, anytime private industry spends $1 in space exploration, that's $1 less that you and I, Raul, as taxpayers have to pay for space exploration. So I welcome the private sector to come into space exploration. Absolutely, because I think that sort of serves as a catalyst. It's good competition, good healthy competition for NASA too.
Yes. Do you think that we are the only living beings out there? I mean, now that you've been out there, do you believe that there could be?
Well, before I answer that question, let me be clear. I haven't seen any. I haven't seen any evidence. I don't know of any evidence. But to think we're the only ones in this universe, when you just have to go look out at the stars.
So vast.
Every star is a sun.
Wow.
Okay? And there's hundreds of billions of them. If you just take the cases where these stars have planets orbiting around, you're still in the hundreds of billions of cases. You're still in the billions of cases. If you take now the cases where there's planets in what we know the habitable zone, where carbon-based life like ours can exist,
Yes.
you still got tens and tens of millions of cases. So how selfish of us to think that we're the only ones.
Yeah.
I think there is other civilizations, and I think we fall kind of like in the middle of the development cycle.
Wow.
I think there's some that are more primitive than us, and there's others that are way more advanced. And
Yes.
I think maybe the ones that are super advanced have cracked the code of how to travel long distances in short times, and maybe those are the ones that visit us. And when they see us, it's kind of like Boy Scouts, leave no trace. They do not want to upset the natural development cycle, so they leave us alone.
Yes.
I mean, that's what I think.
I do believe that as well. Do you think one day we'll colonize another planet?
I think so. Yes, I think we're heading in that direction. You and I probably won't be able to see it in our lifetime, but I think in 2 or 3 generations from now, they'll be, they'll be heading towards either Mars or Alpha Centauri or somewhere else.
Was that what inspired you to become an astronaut?
I think what inspired me to become an astronaut is just the fact that I wanted to discover. I'm an explorer, kind of thing, and I think that's human tendencies, explored by nature, and so that's what really inspired me. I wouldn't mind going back to the moon, but at this point, it looks like maybe someone like my son who just got his PhD at Purdue in aerospace engineering. Maybe he'll be the one that gets to go up there.
What's it like to see a movie being made about your life?
Very surreal and very humbling. Very surreal and very humbling. I'm blessed by the fact that people want to know about my story, and that Hollywood wanted to show it, and I think they did a very, very good job. It's about 95% accurate.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
How accurate was it, and how involved were you in that? In the creation.
I was very involved because the story originally focused just on me, and I felt that shouldn't be the case because, as you see in the movie, it's a case where a community came along with me.
Yes.
My family came along with me. My wife came along with me, and even my kids. And I wanted to make sure that we highlighted all those in the story because, without any one of those 3 or 4 elements there, I would have never been able to have reached my goal. So it wasn't a journey of one man. It was a journey of a community, of a family, of a couple.
One of the questions that I had for you, and I know that a lot of people from El Paso would like to know, did you really own that lowrider?
Yes, I did. I had it.
Did it have a chain link?
Yes, it did. It was a 64 Chevy Impala, super sport, bucket seats, everything. Yeah.
That was beautiful. So that was real.
Yeah, and I didn't sell it. What happened, that's the 5% that's true. What happened is I lent it to one of my uncles after I bought my RX-7. He needed a car, and I said, Tío, se lo presto. So I let him borrow it. Well, this tío liked to drink a little.
Yeah.
And he totaled it.
Wow.
And, of course, nothing happened to him, but my car got totaled.
Yeah, my brother had one of those. It was an RX-7, right?
Uh-huh. Rotary engine. Yeah.
And, rotary engine, rear-wheel drive, right?
Yeah.
So, like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are nice sporty cars.
Yeah, they're nice sporty cars and really neat car. But that's really cool to know that you actually had a lowrider and you would pull up to college with it. And all.
And it was it didn't have the monarch butterflies like it's on the movie.
Yeah.
It actually had pinstripe roses on it.
Oh,
it was
nice.
It was jet black, baby moon rims, and pinstripe roses.
Were you into the lowrider culture?
I don't think it was that I was into it. It was more of you acclimate to the environment that you're in so you don't get beat up.
Yes. And I'm sure you stood out as well, too, wanting to be an astronaut and stuff. What would the the people from the neighborhood, or what would the homies from the neighborhood say when they knew you wanted to be an astronaut?
Well, at first, I didn't tell them I wanted to be an astronaut because I learned early on as a kid in elementary school not to say it because they make fun of you.
Mhm.
So I kind of kept that to myself. But I was very studious. And I was, even though I had my lowrider, I wasn't hanging out in the parks like everybody else was and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And at first, my buddies gave me a hard time. But as they saw, I'm getting close to graduation and all that, from high school, and I was going to go to college, it's more like they became a protective force, and
Yes.
they say, hey, don't mess with Jose because, if anyone's going to get out of this neighborhood, it's going to be him.
Yeah. That's amazing that I've had that similar thing to me.
Yeah.
Like, hey, man, don't do this. Go do that. You're smart.
Yeah. I mean, they say, hey, not you. We'll get someone else to do this. You go off and, do your thing because you're doing good things. Yeah.
What do you miss most about space?
Floating, of course. You never get tired of floating.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you're always floating 24/7. So that's a pretty awesome feeling that you never get tired.
Jose, it's been an amazing conversation with you. I know
Thank
you're
you.
very busy, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to. I'm going to sum this up now
Sure.
because, I can sit here and ask you questions and geek out and all day because it's so interesting. Your story, just space in general. I think it intrigues us all.
Yeah, and if they want to read more, I mean, I have books out there.
Yes.
They can go to tierralunaengineering.com.
Okay.
And there you'll see my book, Reaching for the Stars, which the movie was based on.
Yes.
Then I take the reader on my second book to my 14-day journey to space. It's called From Farm Worker to Astronaut.
Wow.
And then for those that have kids, they want to read to their kids at bedtime, I have a children's illustrated bilingual book, The Boy Who Touched the Stars.
That's amazing.
So those
Definitely
are
got to get
yeah,
that.
and then, like I said, you could take the kid out of the farm, but not the farm from the kid. And I came full circle when I retired NASA. I went back home to California. I opened up my successful consulting business in aerospace, but I also wanted to go back to my passion, which was farming.
Wow.
And so I was able to find a vineyard I could purchase, an operating vineyard, and started.
Congratulations on that.
Started doing that, and then I would sell my grapes to a winery. They invited me and other farmers to see how they make their wine, and I said, I convinced myself this isn't rocket science. I can do this, and I took a couple of courses at UC Davis winemaking, and a few years later, I got my own company called Tierra Luna Cellars. That's CELLARS. If you go to tierralunacellars.com. You too can have the best tasting wine made by an
I
astronaut.
definitely need to get a bottle of that.
Yeah.
We will get that
Yeah.
for the office so everybody can have here.
Yeah.
What's this journey now, becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a business owner now? What does that mean to you? And is it another one of the challenges that Jose is going to go after?
I think you always have to have goals in front of you.
Yes, sir.
So once I conquered my goal of going to space, I said, what's next? And first I said, I'm going to be an author. So I started writing books, and I said, okay, I'm going to go on the speaking circuit and start being a motivational speaker. And then I said, I'm going to do consulting because I want to get back to the technical side and start doing that. And I said, well, I want to go farm. So I started doing that. And so you just keep putting things in front of you, and you keep doing it. And so
it's amazing. I give you lots of props. It's super inspiring. I thank you because I know that your story is going to have an impact in our community too. And thank you for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time. It was great to speak to you, sir.
All right.
And hope to see you soon again. And definitely go check out Jose's wine. Go check out all the websites and social media. His story is very inspiring. If you guys haven't gone to go see the movie, A Million Miles Away, go check it out.
On Prime Video.
On Prime Video, it's
Yes.
free now. So if you have Prime, it's free on there.
Yeah.
So definitely go check that out. So, okay, guys, that's it. That wraps up another episode of Monster Talks.
And thank you, Raul.
yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Mr. Jose Hernandez. That's it, guys. We'll see you on the next one.